This is not a story of a war. It is a story of a takeover. The sky over Khartoum is not blue. It is a bruised canvas of smoke and dust, stained by the black breath of artillery and the desperate prayers of a city being dismantled, street by street, soul by soul. The world watches and calls it a civil war, a power struggle between two generals. They are wrong. What is happening in Sudan is the final violent act of a corporate merger, one decades in the making. The product is power. The currency is gold. And the corporate raider is the Rapid Support Forces. To understand the RSF, you must first forget the word militia, forget the image of ragged rebels and pickup trucks. That is their origin, their branding, but not their essence. The RSF is a modern, hybrid entity, a sovereign state corporation. Its CEO is Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, Hemeti, and its initial public offering was genocide. Act 1. The startup, the Janjaweed. The seed capital was terror. In the early 2000s, the Sudanese government in Khartoum needed a solution to a problem in Darfur. The problem was rebellion. The solution was outsourcing. They funded, armed, and unleashed a network of Arab militias, known collectively as the Janjaweed, devils on horseback. Their business model was scorched earth. They were not an army seeking territory. They were a force seeking annihilation. They burned villages, poisoned wells, and committed atrocities with systematic brutality. The world called it genocide. For the regime in Khartoum, it was a cost-effective security contract. For Hemeti, a former camel trader and minor Janjaweed leader, it was a venture capital injection. He learned a brutal calculus, that violence could be monetized, and that political legitimacy could be purchased with loyalty and deniability. Act 2. The incorporation. The RSF is born. In 2013, the government made a fatal error. They decided to formalize the arrangement. The Janjaweed were messy, a brand associated with war crimes. So they were rebranded, incorporated, given suits of camouflage and a new name, the Rapid Support Forces. This was the moment the parasite was invited into the host's bloodstream. The RSF was placed under the powerful National Intelligence and Security Service, not the regular army. This was crucial. It gave the RSF a direct line to the state's treasury and secrets, while allowing it to operate outside the military's chain of command. It was a state-sanctioned parallel army. Its first major corporate account? Serving as Sudan's shock troops in the Yemen war, rented out to the Saudi and Emirati coalition for billions of dollars. The RSF was no longer just a cost, it was now a profit center. Act 3. The vertical integration. The gold fist. While the world saw a militia, Hemeti was building an empire. He understood that political power is temporary, but economic power is eternal. The key was gold. Sudan is Africa's third largest gold producer. Most of it comes from chaotic artisanal mines in Darfur, a region the RSF now controlled not through politics, but through fear and patronage. The RSF didn't just tax these mines, they vertically integrated. Imagine the supply chain. 1. Extraction. The RSF units control the mines. They provide security, bring in machinery, and command the labor of thousands of desperate diggers. This isn't a ragtag operation. It's a logistics corporation moving bulk product across international borders with impunity. The RSF is their true innovation. They became a corporate hybrid entity. They weren't fighting to control the Ministry of Finance in Khartoum. They had built their own Ministry of Finance in the desert, one that was borderless, untaxed, and answerable only to Hemeti. Act 4. The hostile takeover. The 2023 war. By 2023, the tension was inevitable. The RSF was no longer a subsidiary, it was a competitor. The regular Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, led by General Burhan, was the old bloated state corporation, burdened with bureaucracy, a rigid hierarchy, and tied to a crumbling national economy. The RSF was the agile, ruthless tech startup, flush with cash, and unburdened by rules. The proposed merger, integrating the RSF into the SAF, was the spark. For Hemet, it was like being asked to hand over the keys to his private gold refinery to a bankrupt board of directors. It was not a negotiation, it was an attempted acquisition he would never accept. So, on April 15, 2023, he launched his hostile takeover bid for the entire country. The war that followed reveals the nature of the two entities. The SAF, a conventional army, fights for symbols, the presidential palace, the army headquarters, the airports. They fight to preserve the idea of the state. The RSF fights for assets. They swarm neighborhoods not with tanks, but with their iconic Toyota Hilux Technicals. Their tactics are those of a corporate raider. Asset stripping. They systematically loot banks, factories, and even museums. They seize civilian homes, not just for tactical advantage, but to strip them of everything of value: cars, wiring, furniture. Leveraged buyout. They use their vast financial reserves to buy loyalty, recruit fighters, and purchase advanced weaponry, outspending the state they are trying to conquer. Brand warfare. They run a sophisticated social media campaign, portraying themselves as liberators while their fighters pillage on the ground. It's a PR strategy for a multinational corporation, not a revolutionary movement. And all the while, the gold keeps flowing out, funding the war, making the conflict self-sustaining. The war is the business. Act 5. The human cost. The shareholders of suffering. In a corporate takeover, there are always shareholders who get crushed. In this case, it is the people of Sudan. The story of the RSF is written not just in balance sheets, but in the empty eyes of a child in a refugee camp in Chad. It is written in the diary of a doctor in Khartoum, chronicling the slow death of a hospital without medicine under constant shelling. It is written in the silence of a ransacked home in El Geneina, where the RSF executed a campaign of ethnic cleansing, turning the corporate model of resource control into a final solution for human beings deemed obstacles. The RSF has perfected a new form of conflict economics. They have weaponized remittances, skimming from the money sent home by the Sudanese diaspora, the very funds families use to survive. They control bread baskets, turning food into a weapon. They are not just fighting the SAF. They are dismantling the very concept of Sudanese society, reducing it to a series of exploitable assets. Epilogue. The unfinished acquisition. As the smoke still rises over Khartoum, the outcome remains uncertain. The SAF holds the symbols, but the RSF holds the economy. The world debates ceasefires and humanitarian corridors, missing the fundamental truth: you cannot negotiate with a corporation that has found war to be its most profitable product. The story of the Rapid Support Forces is a dark prophecy of 21st century conflict. It is the story of how a weaponized business model, born in the desert and funded by gold, learned to consume a nation. It is a warning that the future of war may not be fought for flags or ideologies, but for market share. And in this grim market, the price of a nation is paid in the blood of its people, and the dividends are counted in bars of gleaming, blood-stained gold.